Kyle Busch being outspoken isn't anything new. He's done it throughout his Hall of Fame career. Heck, he did it a couple of weeks ago, criticizing a NASCAR change for the 2023 season. On Sunday, the two-time champion was asked what sounded like an innocent question by a reporter about the race at Atlanta. That was until the Richard Childress Racing driver flat out refused to answer the question because, by his own admission, he didn't want to get into trouble. Interestingly, Kyle Larson had no such concerns. In 2021, officials announced they were reconfiguring Atlanta Motor Speedway with changes scheduled to be made before the 2022 season. Kyle Busch, after winning the last Xfinity Series race on the track, shared what he thought about the pending reconfiguration.
2022. Yeah, I mean, barring, getting into Hemrick and him crashing, I sure am glad to win the final Xfinity Series race on a real Atlanta racetrack, because the next one's just going to be a showpiece and it's going to be shit. So that's my point.
Interestingly, in the final 3 Cup Series races on the older version of the track, Busch had 3 top 5s. Last year, he had a DNF in the first race where he finished 33rd and a 20th in the summer. Before this season's first race on the 1.5-mile super speedway, Busch met with reporters and offered no harsh remarks on the track. He saved those for former teammate Denny Hamlin and the rest of his fellow Cup Series competitors when talking about what happened last week after NASCAR penalized the Joe Gibbs Racing driver for acknowledging on his podcast that he intentionally wrecked Ross Chastain at Phoenix. Busch candidly suggested Hamlin should have kept his mouth shut, but the RCR driver's comments about respect in the garage are what made headlines.
Really good reputation and others.
That's the key part. Now you're going down the right path, is we have completely lost any sense of respect in the garage area between drivers at all. And that's where the problem lies, is nobody gives two shits about anybody else. And it's just a problem where everybody takes advantage of everybody as much as they can. We're all selfish, granted, but there was an etiquette that once did live here.
Those types of honest remarks are what Rowdy Nation has grown to expect from Busch in his career. That's why what happened on Sunday after the race was quite surprising to anyone listening when Lee Spencer, working for SiriusXM NASCAR Radio, asked the driver what sounded like an innocent question.
Kyle, just talk a little bit about your day and what you thought about the track.
I won't comment on the track. That'll just get me in trouble.
Kyle Busch worrying about getting into trouble? Seriously? Did NASCAR really strike that much fear into him after penalizing Hamlin last week? Whatever happened for Busch to inexplicably go quiet has to be a recent development because, if you'll recall, it was just a few weeks ago that he had some choice words about the extended restart zone that NASCAR officials couldn't have liked.
Let's go.
No, I think all it's done is cause that wreck at California. So, in my opinion, it's done nothing different, nothing on the positive end. It's only added a negative end to it because at California, Joey was just maintaining his speed and everybody was gaining, closing up their gaps because they all try to lay back and then time the run. And so he just waited for everybody to run into everybody and then went at the end of the zone. And so the bigger you make that zone, the more anticipation everybody has and the more accordion effect you get. So I knew that going in, and I was not a proponent of lengthening the zone, but nobody tends to listen to me a whole lot.
Making the contrast of Busch refraining from comment on the track even more dramatic were the remarks from the normally soft-spoken Kyle Larson, who didn't sugarcoat what he thought about the racing at Atlanta.
Yeah, it was extremely boring until the third stage, and for whatever reason, it seemed like the bottom lane was starting to make headway. So I don't know what changed. I think
Kyle Larson calling out a racetrack for being boring. Kyle Busch declining to comment on the same track out of fear of punishment from NASCAR. No one had either of those on their bingo cards, and we're just 5 races into the season.